Look, my bench, it's halfway clean. Can you believe it? So I've got my Glenelg building form information up here. I took a minute and I made some envelopes. This one here is for materials such as wood and glues. This one is hardware such as screws, bolts, things like that. This one's electrical, switches, wiring, what have you. Mechanical, steering, engine, etc. Tools, consumables such as bits, blades, sandpaper, things like that. And miscellaneous, plans, books, and other. All these envelopes here are, they're going to be for receipts, so I can document incredibly well how much I spent on the boat build entirely, and also how much each particular part of the boat cost me. So anyhow, that's my goal for tonight. Get our setup form built. So stay tuned. Okay, so this is an hour and a half later. We've got pretty much all of the setup frame done. Not quite. We've got a mess on the ground here, a few power tools, some clamps, some cordless stuff. You can see right here, this is frame 4 where they're notched. Come forward a little bit to frame. This is frame 5.5, I believe. Yep, 5.5. They're notched 3 inches. Frame 4 is notched 2 inches. We'll come back here. This is frame 2 is flush. And you can see the angles cut on the back. That's for the transom at 12-degree angles. So that's been cut. Everything's square, true, plumb. We'll come over here. I marked a center line. It's going to be hard to see, I think. Down my 2x6 so I can square all the frames and make sure they're plumb and true before I set them down. The frames for the zip actually thread into this metal section. You can see frame 2 and frame 4 actually sit in between the legs. So I only put 1 screw in my uprights right now. 1 in the front, 1 in the back. So I can take that screw out, lift up these 2 longitudinals, lift them up, slip the 2 frames on, put it back down, and then I'll officially screw, 5 or so screws in at each point. 5 there, 5 there. And I'm waiting to build this middle one until I've got the frame slipped on. Take a look at the level here. I think that's pretty respectable. So that's level front to back. Come throw it up here. And pretty dang level left to right. So I think that's plenty livable. So there we are. The zip build has officially started. And we're looking at about an hour and a half's worth of work at the moment. Okay, so this will be the final video of the setup frame. It is officially done. I made a few changes of plans. I ended up putting the middle leg in. Again, it only has 1 screw, just like the front and the back. Anyhow, I decided I should probably put that middle leg in because it's going to be, a week or 2 before I get the frame material and start hanging frames. And it's about an 8 to 9 foot stretch in between the far left leg and the far right leg. And although it's unlikely that the 2x6 would bow under its own weight, there was a possibility. And I didn't want that to happen. So I went ahead and threw that middle leg in temporarily. After I put the middle leg in, I also added some stiffeners. You can see them right there. Just little 45 gussets out of 2x6. 1 on each set of legs. There's a pair. There's a pair over here. And I did that because these legs, they wanted to lean athwartship, left and right, port and starboard. They were not standing straight up. So I added those little gussets to help shore them up, make them nice and square. The Glenelg plans don't specifically call for that, but they say do what you need to keep things from moving, so I did. Something else I did was I removed the extra 2x6 that was sticking out here because frame 5.5 actually comes across through here and you can't have that there. So I got rid of that. After I was done with all these little modifications, I went and re-leveled my main beams here, my 2x6s, the longitudinals. I went ahead and re-leveled all those because things had changed a little bit from squaring everything up again. And it's nice and level again. I also dropped a plumb bob off of my center just to make sure that I was where I needed to be on my center line, and that's how I'll line up my frames to make sure that they're square, true, and plumb. So, at this moment, I would say the setup jig is officially ready to accept frames. All right, well, we're 4 hours into the build now, and it's kind of faint lines, but you can see I've laid out the frames. This is just my layout board. So when I go to assemble the frames, I can stick them down on top of this to make sure everything's perfect before I glue and screw them. So there's frame 5.5, frame 2, frame 4 is on the back of this board. Carbon paper. And what a pain in the butt that was, because nobody in town has 4x8 sheets of carbon paper, so I had to buy notebook-size sheets and tape them all together. That was a real adventure. So anyhow, we got the plans, got our layout board done. Try to get a little closer so you can see. The layout board's all done. We got a sheet of 1/4" marine. This is mahogany marine. So that's going to be used for cutting out my gussets and things like that for the corners of the frames. I'll probably make the transom skin out of that as well. And over here we've got a really pretty piece of mahogany. This will be some of the frames. I think I'm going to have to get one more to finish the frames, maybe 2. But anyhow, 4 hours in, making good progress. Alright, July 15th, we put in another 4 hours today. I picked up this little board so I can keep track of hours. So we're looking at not quite 10 hours, 9 3/4 hours into the boat so far. And frame 4 is officially finished. I decided to do each frame individually, start to finish. And by finish, I guess I still have to finish cutting out this little... It's already cut into the frame here, but I got to finish cutting out this gusset up here for the shear. Same for the chine down below. But the slots are already there. I just got to follow them with my multi-tool. Anyhow, so back to the original story. I thought I could probably do a better quality job if I did each frame individually, start to finish. I was afraid if I were to cut out all the pieces and cut out all of my my gussets and sand everything and then start putting everything together, I think I would get bored of doing the same thing repetitively, and I would assume my quality would suffer. So instead of that, I'll just start one and build it to completion and start on the next one. Anyhow, there we are, 10 hours in. All right. Well, I took a night off from working on the boat and decided to build a couple of sawhorses. For some reason I can't explain, I have never owned a pair of sawhorses. I can't explain it. But after building frame 4 of the boat, which is currently underneath of that sheet, I built frame 4 on the setup mold. And that happens to be 24 inches off the concrete floor. So all of the cutting, all of the sanding, all the gussets and the frame pieces, I had to do all of that using the setup frame as a pair of sawhorses. Basically, I had to, it's 24 inches off the ground, so I had to bend over at the waist for 6 hours while building that frame. Needless to say, my